910 and the free iHeartRadio app.
That's right. The Verbo Fiesta Bowl Executive Director and CEO, as well as the Rate Bowl, Erik Moses, joins us now on the Right to the Guest line here on Fox Sports 910. How's your Friday going there, Erik?
Pretty good. Enjoying some temperate temperatures here in Chicago, the Windy City, which is not yet too windy, but cooler than Arizona.
Yes, absolutely. I wouldn't mind being there right now. This time of year.
Absolutely, yeah.
About another month. No thanks.
Forget it. Arizona's the best that time of year.
Hey, Erik, as we look into another week here, there's some teams that really come off the paper, so to speak, and that being Indiana, who's 7-0. And just your thoughts. That's who's hosting, not too far from you in Indiana. They're hosting ESPN's Game Day. First time that school has ever hosted Game Day. Just your thoughts on what's going on there in Bloomington.
I think we all thought their head coach was a little bit crazy when he came out at his opening press conference and said, I win, Google me.
Yeah.
And I remember texting a friend in the athletic department there and said, whoa, he's coming out kind of hot. Maybe we ought to see some games first. But apparently we should have Googled him because he's got the Hoosiers doing their thing. And I love this. I love the fact that schools like that are primarily known for basketball are now super excited about football, and we've got more storylines in the Big Ten.
So when you look at overall, I mean, great games. We talk about Alabama, Missouri. That's going to be going on. You look at BYU, a dog versus UCF. But overall, you look at the schedule moving forward the next 3 or 4 weeks, this thing could shake out with several different scenarios, especially if you're looking at that Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, I should also call your attention to a game that I think many people may not have on their radar, but that's Notre Dame at number 12 versus Navy, an undefeated Navy team at 24. And I'll tell you, the first time I ever saw Navy play was years and years ago in Baltimore, and they were playing against Notre Dame. And I remember looking down at the field and thinking, those guys on Notre Dame's offensive line have to outweigh each of those guys on Navy's defensive line by at least 30 pounds per person. But the way those guys, those midshipmen fought, man, in the trenches, it made you proud to know that those are the people who'll be wearing a uniform to protect our freedom because they get after it. And this team, I think, is doing exactly that. That could be a sleeper game.
Erik Moses joining us here at Fox Sports 910. You know, here we are, like I mentioned, we're in the 9th week of college football, and you got to have 6 wins to become bowl eligible. And as we look at the Rate Bowl, already some pretty good matchups that are being at least forecast or projected. Michigan State, UCF. I like Wisconsin, Cincinnati, Wisconsin, Oklahoma State. There's some Iowa, Baylor. There's some pretty good games already as we get the Big 10 and Big 12 for that matchup.
Yeah, the Big 12 right now, it's got a lot of teams that I think kind of, you know, from the top to the middle are playing really well. We certainly expect to have their champion in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl, but also being able to have another one of their teams who will have a successful season in the Rate Bowl, I think is going to be great. And they're really adding these additional teams and showing the kind of competition that they're going to have, and I think we can look forward to for years to come in that conference.
You know, moving on with some of the other games, again, I'm going to be closely watching because of the Boise State UNLV game. And can Gente, can he get his 150 yards on average against this very tough UNLV team? Who needs the was it Sluka, the quarterback that ended up leaving? Who needs him anymore? They can't have that chip in their shoulder. They could proceed without him.
Yeah, they've only lost 1 game this season. I think that's going to be a great Mountain West matchup between those 2 teams. Gente seems like a throwback in terms of running back. In the classic tradition, reminds me a little bit of, dare I say it, a little bit of one of my favorites, Emmitt Smith. You know, not a huge guy, but runs hard and also has speed when he needs it to get around and past defenders. So I'm looking forward to that game tonight. It may tell us a lot about who ends up being that group of 5 team that ends up in the top 12 for the CFP. That'll be between, you know, one group of 5 conference winner or the highest rated group of 5 conference winner. And so it'll be interesting to see whether or not Army or Navy or whether Boise State or another group of 5 team gets that spot this year.
Erik, as we look ahead to the quarterfinal, of course, that's the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. Again, it's hard not to look ahead and look at some of these matchups as you prepare and you get your tickets for this game. Ohio State, BYU, Texas, BYU. Oh, geez, we can't have Kansas State,
Dang,
Texas.
Skippy, you can.
But some really good matchups. Penn State, Boise State. I mean, you can't lose this one. I mean, it's going to be an outstanding matchup no matter what.
You really can. I will say, and hopefully nobody holds this against me, but two of the matchups that I think that are projected that are pretty interesting to me from a promoter standpoint are that Texas K-State, Ohio State, BYU.
Yeah,
I think both of those that would perform really well in terms of people coming into the Valley, coming to the game to see it, and lots of energy on all those fan bases.
Speaking of BYU, you mentioned it last week. They were celebrating their 50-year anniversary of the rematch of the 74 Fiesta Bowl with Oklahoma State and BYU, and that came down to a last-minute win. So that was a big deal. It was outstanding. That was one of the better games last week.
Yeah, my friends from Utah and LDS friends are pretty excited about this season that BYU is putting together this year, and are already giving me all kinds of hints and suggestions about how we should treat their fans if and when they end up in the Valley for the Fiesta Bowl.
I was at that game. That was pretty much Lavelle Edwards putting BYU on the map in that game, even though Oklahoma State, throwing the ball. Gary Scheide was the quarterback. But the one game projected, Oregon versus Iowa State. Now, that happened before when Brock Purdy won the MVP with it was the COVID Fiesta Bowl. And
well, don't call it the COVID. You can call it the Verbo. Yeah, you can call it Tostitos or something else. You don't need to call it COVID.
It was during the COVID year.
That's better.
When there was like 3,000 fans. Jeez. I had Tyler Shuck quarterbacking for Oregon, had Brock Purdy quarterback for Iowa State. We couldn't go and see him after the game because of the of all the things going on with the COVID. But that's been played before. That'd be a phenomenal game to see the clones if they're both undefeated at that time.
Yeah, I think the only way that ends up happening is if Oregon doesn't win the Big Ten championship.
Yeah.
And I'm not convinced that they're not going to win the Big Ten championship. So I think that one's more of a long shot right now, but you never know. And that could be a really good game. Iowa State will travel. You guys know better than I do that they've shown up for both of our games in the Valley in previous years. And we love the folks there in the Cyclones and have had a good time up there last year. So, we're hoping there's an embarrassment of riches in our future for the Verbo Fiesta Bowl this year.
Let's talk about some high school football. The Friday night showdown last week, it was the 5A game between Desert Mountain and Horizon. Horizon won that one. Tonight, I believe you guys, the troop, the bus, the plane, the helicopters going down to Marana, close to Tucson, correct?
Yeah, this will be our first time to take Friday Night Showdown to Tucson, and we're so excited about being able to extend this program down there. As you guys know, eventually we want to be all over the state and making certain that we are bringing more attention to these scholastic games all over the state. But getting down to Tucson is a big deal, and seeing Marana play is a huge deal. I think they get to stamp their ticket to the Open if they win tonight. Yeah,
they are one of the top teams as far as the Open is concerned. Not a lot of people have really seen them yet, but so you can give us, well, you're in Chicago, but the boys of the Fiesta Bowl, Yellow Jackets, can give us a scouting report. Just have them, direct message me there, as they say these days. Just give me a shout how they do.
DM me.
DM, excuse me. DM me.
Yeah, DM, yeah.
Help him out, Rock.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've been trying 20 years. Yeah. Hey, I want to jump back to something first before we let you go, because I think it's, we talked about it a little bit last week, but I do think it's important that the Guaranteed Rate Bowl is now the Rate Bowl, and you can get tickets at ratebowl.com. It's a 3:30 start on December 26th. The game normally has been at night. This is going to be an afternoon game. I know everyone's excited. We have a Fiesta Bowl. Rob Drake's right here in front of us here at Wright Toyota. He's got his hands up in the air that it's a afternoon game. But
hallelujah.
Talk about that game and everything that goes around that one at Chase Field.
Well, first tell Mr. Drake I say hello. And secondly, we're so excited about this, man. The opportunity to have this game at a more normal football game time and kickoff time, I think allows us to really start to move to become more of a part of the holiday tradition in Phoenix and in our marketplace. We want people to come on out to see a great game. We're working on, as you know, Rock, working on some things that we hope will make it even more exciting pregame to get people in a festive atmosphere before coming inside to Chase Field and seeing a fantastic matchup between a Big 12 team and a Big 10 team. And given what those two conferences and the teams in those conferences are doing this year, I'm sure no matter who plays in that game, you're going to see a fantastic game.
Erik, have yourself a great weekend. Safe travels back to the Valley, and we'll look forward to talking to you next Friday.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You got it. It's Erik Moses joining us, the executive director of the Verbo Fiesta Bowl and Rate Bowl. So appreciate him taking time. RateBowl.com, of course, fiestabowl.org to get tickets for that. You bring up that game, Manuch, and Rob Drake, a longtime Fiesta Bowl
Oregon,
guy.
Iowa State game.
Yeah,
when you got honored.
Yeah, that was the Frank Snell Lifetime Achievement Award. But
big old photo.
Yeah, but I wasn't allowed to go to the game.
Oh,
so it was funny because I remember the athletic director, Jamie Pollard at Iowa State, sent me a text during the game and said, "Where are you at?" And I was sitting at a bar, because there was one bar that you're allowed to go to down the street.
Yep.
So I get a nice little pat on the back with his achievement award for being on the bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, you get them after you spend a lot of time.
Yes, yeah.
Eventually they're like, "Oh, who should we give it to?" All right, Rock's been around since '99.
2 minutes.
He's been a volunteer since '94. We'll give it to him. And Rob Drake's won too. He's a Lifetime Achievement Award winner as well. But I'll never forget that the athletic director at Iowa State is sending me a note going, "Where are you?
Well, I did the same thing.
We see you on the screen, but because it was COVID, we weren't allowed to be there."
I was one of the 3,000. We allowed 3,000 people. We just said,
and
seats
the
apart.
Lifetime Achievement Award winner wasn't allowed to be there.
Yeah, it was weird. So I'm looking up there and I go, "Oh, Rock, okay."
Yeah,
so
I was
I knew
real
you couldn't
happy
go on
that
the
day.
field. I said, "Where are you at?" He goes, "I'm